All right. Welcome everyone to the Digital E-commerce podcast again. I'm your host, Kenneth Dylan Lam, Digital Dylan, and I'm absolutely thrilled to have Matthew join us today. Matthew is an agency of Matthew. Is it Matthew Digital or Matthew Marketing?
Slaymaker Marketing, after my last name. Yeah, it's super creative.
Slaymaker Marketing. Sorry about that. So you definitely passionate about e-commerce. I've seen you in the past, and then I just wanted to stay ahead of the curve in the online business world. And you're in the and if you guys want to learn more about marketing, this episode is mainly dedicated to Google Ads. So I'm incredibly excited for today's guest. So let's see what we can get. Let's see what golden nugget we can get from Matthew today. And Matthew, would you like to introduce yourself today?
Yeah, for sure. So my name is Matt. I'm located in Dallas, Texas, in the United States. I've been doing digital marketing for the last 10 years or so. When I got started, I started at an agency with only 4 people there. During the interview, I came in with a full suit and tie on, and then the boss comes around the corner wearing flip-flops. And he's like, "Oh my gosh, wow, you really want this job?" And so it was a full service agency. So we did a little bit of everything there. We did Google ads, Facebook ads, website design, SEO, everything digital marketing related. And I was completely thrown into the fire. I didn't know anything about digital marketing at the time. And they immediately were like, just do everything. So it taught me how to figure things out. But in that experience, I realized that Google ads was what I loved more than anything else. What I love about Google is I feel like compared to any other platform, it allows you to be there at every stage of the funnel. So at the top of funnel levels, YouTube ads, display, discovery ads are great for introducing your brand to people, making that good first impression. When people are in that consideration stage, they're already looking for products like yours or services that you offer. Getting in front of them with Google search ads or Google shopping ads allows you to be there at that stage. And then bottom of funnel, people who maybe have already purchased from you before, getting back in front of them via remarketing ads on YouTube, display, discovery. So regardless of what stage of marketing you're trying to do, ads is great for that. So over the last 5 years, I've been doing Google ads pretty much exclusively and trying to get as good at that as I can. So
amazing. Yeah, as you just mentioned, you just walk in with a flip-flop. I guess as a digital marketer, it doesn't really matter what you walk in as. It's all about how analytical that you are and how many skill set you have when it comes to planning out your customer journey, right? So, Matt, I've seen that you talk about you have a speaking gig in YouTube and Google event, and you also part of this Smart Marketer group, which is a blue ribbon group. Can you tell us about that? What's it about?
Yeah, the Smart Marketer group, that was about 1.5 years ago. And it's a course. So if you go to Google and you type in Smart Marketer Google Ads course, I'm one of the teachers on that. So I think the courses that I taught specifically were about display discovery at the time, which is now demand gen campaigns, and then probably YouTube ads as well. So me, another specialist at my agency, and then the CEO of our agency lead people through that course. And it's very comprehensive, gives you a good idea from top to bottom how you can see success with Google ads. And then, like you mentioned, about 3 weeks ago, I was a presenter at an event at Los Angeles at the Google offices. And specifically on that one, what I talked about was landing pages. So how can you make the most out of the traffic that you're sending to your landing pages? I think a lot of times at these events, and rightfully so, we talk a lot about creative and how can you produce the best video possible, the best images possible. We talk a lot about targeting. How do you make sure you're reaching the right people with the right campaign structures and stuff like that in Google Ads? But I don't think we talk enough about what do you do with that traffic once they land on your website, and how do you make sure your landing page is actually optimized for conversions. So that talk is somewhere on YouTube. If you go to OMG Commerce, their YouTube channel, you can see the whole talk there.
Right. I can't agree more with that. I I was like part of the student back in 2017. Like I was like following Molly Pittman with the course called Train My Traffic Person. Like that was the first course I've ever taken in my life, and then that was the time that I become like a full on with Facebook ad, and that is actually a what do you call that? I would say I would vouch to for what you have been working on in the past, and that you build there.
Yeah, they put great content out there for sure.
So given your extensive experience with Google Ads, can you share some key strategy that you believe are crucial for creating a successful ad campaign?
Yeah, obviously it depends on what your goals are, what kind of business you are. If you're a lead generation company, the kind of platform or the kind of channels that you're going to utilize in Google Ads are very different than what you're going to use if you're an e-commerce company. And it depends on if you're focused on profitability or if you're more focused on growth. So let's say you're a lead generation company and you're really trying to get growth underway. YouTube campaigns, I think there's nothing better than YouTube to kind of stand out, have your moment in the spotlight, and reach people either who are already considering and looking for this kind of stuff and are in market for the things that you sell, or people who are in that awareness stage and haven't even started looking for that yet. So channels like that are fantastic for growth. If you're looking for efficient conversions, search is still king for most of my lead clients. Same with local brands as well. If you're trying to get more store traffic, running ads on Google search and using Performance Max campaigns are super effective for that. When it comes to e-commerce companies though, that's where shopping ads become a huge part of the strategy. So, and Performance Max campaigns, they used to be, I don't know if you're familiar with it, smart shopping campaigns used to exist in Google Ads, and they ran alongside of standard shopping campaigns. Well, Google got rid of smart shopping campaigns and that evolved into Performance Max. But now Performance Max does so much more than what smart shopping used to do. So while smart shopping used to show on obviously the shopping ads at the top of Google and a little bit on the display network, Performance Max does a little bit of everything. So it can show as a search ad, it can show as a shopping ad, a display image ad, or a YouTube ad. Just based on the goals that you tell it, I want as many conversions as I can get within this budget, or I want to see a 300% ROAS. It's going to go out there and try to do that. So with that said, depending on what your goals are, if you're in growth mode or if you're in profitability mode, there really is a channel and a strategy for you. It just depends on what your goal is.
Right. So when it comes to YouTube ad and Performance Max, like which one do you think that is better for e-commerce ad? Say for Amazon seller or for dropshipper?
I wouldn't say one or the other is better. What most of my clients tend to spend more on is Performance Max. And the reason for that is because you will be more profitable with Performance Max. The thing with Performance Max, though, is it can be somewhat deceiving in terms of how much it's actually contributing to your business. Because what Performance Max is going to do is start with the easiest conversions to get. So if you just let Performance Max do whatever it wants, the first things it's going to spend money on is your own brand name. So if they're looking for Slaymaker Marketing, that's the first thing that Performance Max is going to bid on and show up for. Now you can make some exclusions to that kind of stuff and say, I don't want to pay for any searches that have my brand name in it. And now Performance Max go after non-branded searches. So then it'll start to do that. And then as you give it more and more budget, it'll start doing the harder and harder stuff to get conversions from. So display remarketing, display top of funnel, maybe start leaning into YouTube top of funnel a little bit more. So it will be profitable for you, but it might not necessarily be the best for growth and reaching new people and reaching new customers. That's where I think YouTube is better if you do have more of a growth goal here, because YouTube does give you that greater control to know I'm reaching new people with these campaigns and I'm getting a lot of views, I'm getting a lot of impressions, and ideally you're seeing conversions come through on those as well. What I see a lot of agencies do is they'll try to sell people on just impressions from not just YouTube, but from display as well. But impressions by themselves have no value. Anybody can get impressions. What we want are high quality impressions for people who are actually going to convert. And so you'll see that in your Google Ads reports. You know, you should hopefully see a YouTube ROAS, if you're an e-commerce company, somewhere between 0.7 and like 1.5. right? If you're reaching like a top of funnel audience. If you're reaching remarketing audiences, people who already know who you are, or people who have maybe purchased from you in the past, for those, you really want to see more of a ROAS like 3 to 5x, right? So depending on what you're trying to do, I tend to think YouTube is better for growing your brand, and Performance Max is good for capturing what's already out there of people who are already searching for what you do. So, but most of my clients that I work with do utilize both. If you're in e-commerce, I would utilize both. If you're not in e-commerce, if you're lead generation, Performance Max can work, but it's very hit or miss. What happens a lot of times with Performance Max for lead gen brands is that I see it brings in a lot of low quality leads. And if any of us have been in lead gen, especially you and I can probably relate to this, trying to get leads for our own business, it's not just about the quantity of leads that you can get. If all of those leads are junk leads of some bot just putting in abcd@abcgmail.com, that's useless for us. We just spent money and got a lead that is never going to convert, right? So it's about finding that balance between quality and quantity, which Performance Max sometimes isn't very good at. It just gets a lot of leads that sometimes are kind of junky.
Right. Let's go back to, let's say, for a e-commerce target. In our audience, there's like e-commerce for audience for Amazon seller, e-commerce audience for job shipping company, or e-commerce seller for Kickstarter creator, right? So what do you think about like what is the difference between running ad on all three different platforms? Because Amazon, some of them could be like more of like commodity, and job shipping sometimes more of like interactive marketing. That's why they run on Facebook. And Kickstarter is more of like not in the market yet, right? So I might put you in the spot right now, but would you like explain a little bit about that? Like,
yeah, I can't speak to drop shipping as much because I haven't worked with clients that have done drop shipping. I know of many who've done that, but yeah, but that said, like the Kickstarter brands, they're usually kind of in introducing themselves mode, growth mode. There's usually some sort of a market for what they do, but there's a small name in that space and they're trying to make a name for themselves. That's usually where investing in good creative very early on and using campaigns like campaigns and Facebook as well. We're speaking about Google specifically right now, but I think along with YouTube ads, Facebook ads is the next best thing you do for getting brand interest in your brand. And if you're a Kickstarter brand doing that at the very beginning, I think you're going to see really good dividends from. If I was a Kickstarter brand, what I would be launching with are remarketing campaigns, YouTube top of funnel campaigns, search and shopping campaigns. You could do Performance Max as well, but I think you're covered if you do each of those other ones. Drop shipping, I wouldn't be able to speak to as much. With the Amazon sellers, are you referring to people who sell on Amazon and are trying to get more sales on their Amazon store?
exactly. They want to like diversify the risk, and then they want to like get sales on the website or landing page.
Yeah, we have some clients that do use Google to Amazon ads. So essentially what that is you're running ads on Google, but you're directing people to your Amazon storefront or to your Amazon product page. And that can work really well. We've seen kind of mixed results with it. The challenge with it is that if you're sending people to an Amazon storefront, you're not getting conversion tracking with that, and you're not feeding that back into Google Ads. Yeah. And Google and Facebook both operate the same way in the sense that if you're feeding conversions back into the system, you're telling Google if it's doing a good job or not, right? And if it can get more efficient with that. So ideally, you're going to want your campaigns in Google Ads to be seeing 15 conversions per 30 days. And with a Google to Amazon campaign, you're going to see 0 conversions because they're going directly to Amazon. So there's nothing to feed back into Google to say whether it did well or not. So oftentimes what you're doing with that is you're just optimizing for traffic. So you're using bid strategies in Google that are focused on just clicks. So maximize clicks is one, a manual CPC is another. But using a conversion-based bid strategy like target CPA, target ROAS, maximize conversions, that's all going to be kind of useless in that case. But we have seen, so usually for the brands that are using a Google to Amazon strategy, mostly they use search campaigns to do that. You're not going to be able to buy shopping campaigns for that because in order to run ads on Google Shopping, you have to be able to claim the domain and say, we are Amazon.com, but you're not, obviously. Only Amazon can claim that they're Amazon. So that's completely off the table for you. Performance Max is pretty much off the table for you as well. You can get a lot of cheap clicks from Google Display to send to your Amazon page, but oftentimes they're going to be kind of low quality clicks as well. So most of the brands that we see doing a Google to Amazon strategy are using Google search, and about 90% of their spend is being utilized in that sense.
All right. Right. So we have to build a bridge page, or do you think that we should just send traffic directly to Amazon? Or
I've seen people use bridge pages, and it has kind of pros and cons. The pro is that you can have a call to action there, and that can be your conversion. So somebody clicks on that, goes to Amazon, and now you fed something to Google to say, hey, people who look like those who click on this button, I want you to go find more people like that. And that kind of feeds the algorithm and helps it to do a little bit better. The problem is that every step that you add along the way to get people to that end result, people are going to drop off. And that's same with your website as well. The more buttons that they have to click on to get to your checkout page, the less likely they're going to be to actually buy your product. So the bridge page helps in the sense that Google's getting some data here, but sometimes it can hurt in the sense that less people are actually getting to Amazon and ultimately buying. So what I would say is you should test it. You should absolutely test having a version that uses the bridge page and having a version that sends straight to Amazon, and just measure the results from there. Make sure you're using UTM tracking so that Amazon can see that data, where that traffic is coming from, and then just compare and see what sees a better conversion rate and CPA in the end.
Agree, yeah. So we're actually using WhatsApp as well to capture them and then just make a sale in WhatsApp. And also we are trying to use native app style as well. But I guess that's another topic. Let's focus on YouTube Google Ad right now. So what are some of the common challenges that you see businesses face, like when using Google Ad and YouTube Ad?
Yeah, I think one of the biggest ones is a lack of strong creative. A lot of times what people try to do, a lot of them I work with, especially on e-commerce, they'll be big on Facebook and then they're trying to get started on Google, and they'll just try to use the same creative that they're using on Facebook and just repurpose it for Google. That doesn't work very well. The nature of how someone is absorbing content on Facebook is very different than how they are on YouTube. On Facebook, they're kind of scrolling. And so having something that's attention stopping within the first second is really important. And on Facebook, you can write long captions that are super engaging and tell basically your whole story. On Google, you're a lot more limited with that kind of stuff. Like for us, we have character counts on the Google Ads side of things. So your headline can only be 30 characters. Your description can only be 90. So your messaging isn't really what's selling people on Google. It's all about your creative. So on YouTube, on your typical in-stream video that you're seeing before the how to tie a tie video that you're about to watch, you have 5 seconds before somebody has the option to skip that video. So you have 5 seconds to really hook somebody in. So there's kind of this blend of entertainment that you have to have with your YouTube ad, but also enough of an education part of it, highlighting your differentiators, highlighting your social proof. Why should people trust you? And that's the part that I think most people miss. If you don't have good creative, then you're not going to see success on YouTube. And you're probably not going to see success on display or demand gen either. Creative sells people so much more than words do. There's that saying that a picture is worth 1,000 words, and it absolutely is. And I think before getting started on any of these platforms, even Facebook, you should invest in getting some quality, good creative first, and then get launched from there. I think the other thing that I see a lot of people mess up on when it comes to the targeting is they just kind of launch relatively broadly. They use Google's recommended audiences. They start with that, and then they just let it go. And if you're not checking on things like where did your ads actually show, you're going to be surprised at how bad they actually do. Because I've seen it time and time again where really big agencies or really big brands will launch a YouTube campaign, spend hundreds of thousands of dollars. And then when you go to the where ads showed report on YouTube, it's all like kids channels, Coco Melon, Miss Rachel. So it's like maybe you were reaching the right people, but those right people, their iPad to their kid or put on the TV for their kid, and they're just watching Miss Rachel, and you're not getting any valuable impressions from that. I've seen that a bunch. So creative, making sure your targeting is in the place. But then, like I mentioned earlier, having a quality landing page that actually converts any traffic that you get there. Those are the three main pillars of success that I usually see on Google Ads: your targeting, your creative, and the landing page. I think if you those three elements right and you invest in those up front, you're going to see so much more success than if you don't make those initial investments.
Cool. You on top of like mentioning like creatives, right now, is there anything that, obviously creative is expensive to create, like nowadays, like you can use UGC for a cheaper creative testing, but then like if you want to create a really quality kind of commercial based ad, like is there any hack or tips that you would share with the audience, like a quick way to find or source those creative?
Yeah, there's a lot of really good agencies that there's just a huge range of possibilities that you can go with. I work with some agencies that produce some high quality, it uses UGC content, but puts them together in the form of a higher quality explainer video, where those videos can cost, something like $1,000 or $2,000, which isn't bad. That gives you a good start. There are agencies. So have you ever seen the Dr. Squatch YouTube videos?
Yeah.
Those were, go look them up. And for anyone in the audience, go look those up. They're award-winning YouTube videos, got hundreds of millions of views. The people who created those videos, they'll probably charge you more like $60,000, $50,000 for one video.
Those Harmon Brothers style videos. Yep,
exactly. Harmon Brothers style. And those are really expensive. I wouldn't blame a brand for not wanting to utilize those, because I've worked with several brands who have worked with agencies like that, and you pay $50,000 plus, maybe in one case it was $300,000 for a set of creative.
Right.
And then the creative didn't even do well. It didn't even do as well as like their UGC videos.
Yeah.
Right. So one thing I would say is like paying a premium doesn't mean it's going to work better. It's not necessarily about the quality of the video. It's about the content of your message. And are you reaching the right people? And are you speaking to people not based on what you want to say, but what they want to hear? You should, before you even develop what your creative is, you should ask your customers, what are the most important things to you? What are the reasons that you would buy our product over somebody else's product? An idea of what are those main differentiators and value propositions that we need to hit on throughout this creative. And whether you spend $10,000 on it or $2,000 on it, as long as you're hitting on those themes and you deliver it in a trustworthy, authentic way, you're going to see some good success with it. So, but I think UGC is a great place to start, whether you source it from your own customers or work with agencies that do kind of the fake UGC where it's a customer, but an actor as well. Yeah. Those work really well as well. So there's a lot of really great options out there.
That's great. So you would like recommend to stick with the UGC route, to repurpose the UGC for a cheaper hack?
Yeah, if you're in those early stages, I do think it's worthwhile. There's plenty of good agencies who can produce a quality like explainer video that doesn't rely solely on UGC for somewhere in the $3,000 to $5,000 range. Right. And it is worth investing on, because I think a lot of people can see $5,000 and say, oh man, that's a lot to invest in creative. But if you're planning on spending $50,000 on your YouTube ads per month or per year, that $1,000 is a drop in the bucket, because and the investment that you're going to make on that is going to make the investment that you make on your actual ad buying and the dollars that you're spending on your ads so much better. You know, if you can get a 0.2% conversion rate as opposed to a 0.1% conversion rate, you're doubling your ROAS, right? So make that investment. Don't overpay, but get a good, and you also have to have a good mix of creative, because you have to always be testing something. Another thing I see a lot of people kind of miss on is they'll provide us a creative, but we only have like one or maybe two. And if we're testing those, we're not getting any sort of learning. I don't have anything to compare to say, we should do more of this, or we should try something like this. We're kind of just guessing at that point. Whereas my most successful clients on YouTube, they're giving me 10 new creatives every week. And so I can go in and constantly test that kind of stuff and come back to them and say, hey, this creative that you're doing that focuses on these value propositions, that's doing great. Let's focus more on that, but change this aspect of it based on the metrics that Google's telling us. And then vice versa. We tried this and it totally flopped. Let's not do it. And if we are, let's change these things.
Yeah. Creative testing is like pain in the ass sometimes. You just keep testing.
But you got to do it. And you have to do it for everything, and not just Google Ads, but any form of marketing in general. I mean, when it comes to your keywords, you shouldn't just pick 10 keywords on Google search and run those for the rest of your life. You should test 100 at the beginning, find out what works and what doesn't, pause the ones that fail, accelerate the ones that win, and then test more and keep going with that. And do that for everything, your audiences, your landing pages. There should never be like this stasis where you haven't changed anything in the last month. You should always be changing something and figuring out, are there opportunities for me to improve even just a little bit? Because one thing I'd say on that is, I think sometimes people can get caught up. It's like, oh, we only improved by 2% this month. But if you do that every month, if we improve by 2% every month, by the end of the year, you're up 40%.
That's a compound effect that we're talking about, right?
Exactly.
Yeah. So Matt, since you talk about keyword, how about SEO? When it comes to SEO and Google Ad integration, how do you integrate SEO effort with the Google Ad campaign to achieve a holistic, let's say, digital marketing strategy?
Yeah, it's an interesting question. It's something that I think people overlook, including myself, because Google Ads, like the keywords that you buy on Google Ads, aren't necessarily going to affect your SEO ranking. So it's not going to help or hurt you if you bid on certain keywords. But what is worth considering is, are there certain things that you already show up in the first position for on Google? There might be some non-branded searches that you already show up for, in which case maybe you don't need to bid on that for branded search, right? If we're just directing people to our ad as opposed to the organic listing, which is already right up there at the top, no need really to pay for that keyword. So I think it just depends on where your ranking is. Most brands that I work with don't have many organic keywords on the first page of Google outside of their own brand name. And then there's that conversation of, should we bid on our own brand name? And most of the brands I work with, it does make sense to bid on your own brand name, primarily because there's a lot of competitors who are also going to be bidding on your brand name, and they're going to try and steal traffic from you and push you further down the page. So you might go search for your brand right now and see that there's 3 competitors up at the top. A lot of users are going to start clicking on that stuff, but because it's your brand, it actually rewards you, and you can pay less for that search than what your competitors have to. So it's really easy for you to push them down without having to overpay for that kind of stuff. So with SEO, I think it really just depends on the organic ranking for various keywords. Don't overpay for keywords that you already rank really well for. And if there's areas that you do need to improve your ranking, adding those as paid keywords is a good way to get that traffic.
All right, good. Say, could you share a case study, as in like if someone else come to you, like what are they expecting?
Yeah. Generally, so month 1 with Google Ads clients is all about testing everything that we can. I tell everyone, you're not going to hit your goal necessarily within month 1. If we do, that's great, but that's not necessarily the goal. The goal is to figure out what works and what doesn't for you. So then by the time we get to month 2, at that point, we start narrowing in to what is working. And now we're getting a little bit more efficient, but still doing quite a bit of testing here. Month 3 is usually where everyone's hitting their goal at that point. Whether you want to hit growth and be getting 1,000 new customers at a $2 CPA or $5 CPA, whatever that might be, or you're staying about the same, but getting really good profitability. Month 3 is where everything kind of starts to hit there. And my approach is I leave no stone unturned when it comes to Google Ads. I never want to be able to say, like, have a client come to me and say, have we tested this? And I say, oh no, I've never even considered that. So with every client, I utilize every single channel in Google Ads. So remarketing across display, demand gen, and YouTube. Performance max where it makes sense, especially for e-commerce companies, shopping campaigns, search campaigns. And yeah, we're always just testing something there. Yeah, so that's generally kind of the flow of how performance kind of ticks along. And then at that point, it's just meeting regularly and figuring out what are the new things that we can do. What are some big ideas that we can introduce, whether it's in terms of creative, new pages, new audience, new messaging. How can we speak to people in a different way?
Yeah. All right. What advice would you give to a beginners who are just starting out Google Ads? Say they come from Amazon, they are Amazon seller, they want to go to Google Ads. What was the first step that you think they could take to achieve a better ROAS?
Well, learn as much as you can. And there's so many good resources out there. What I would say is learn from agencies and people who do Google Ads daily rather than necessarily what Google recommends as the best advice. Because what you'll find is if you go into Google Ads, the second tab down is recommendations. And if you read through those recommendations, most of the recommendations from Google will be increase your budget or add new keywords, all these things that kind of expand your targeting and lead to you spending more money on Google Ads. And that's not necessarily your goal. Google would love for you to spend more money, but that might not necessarily be beneficial for you. So dive in, go to YouTube, go to Skillshare, learn how people who are experienced with it go about it. And don't try to do too much all at once. Start with the basics. Start with Google search campaigns, get your feet wet with that. And then over time, as you develop better creative, as you kind of learn the ropes of audience targeting, that's where you can start to roll out to those more complicated platforms of YouTube and stuff like that. But yeah, don't try to do too much at once. And another thing, don't try to spread your budget too thin. If you have, let's say $100 a day, you're probably not going to be able to run every single campaign type. Like I mentioned earlier, a campaign needs 15 conversions per 30 days for it to do well. So if you're splitting those conversions amongst 10 different campaigns at $10 a day with your $100 a day budget, none of those are going to perform well. So start slow, work with what you know, work with what you think is most likely to succeed for you based on what your goal is, based on your industry, and go from there.
Mm-hmm. That's very good advice. Where can people find you, Matt?
Yeah, they can go to slaymakermarketing.com. So that's SLAYMAKER marketing.com. You can also find me on LinkedIn if you type in Matt Slaymaker. And yeah, that's pretty much it.
Slaymaker Marketing. I will make sure that I will include that in the show notes. And that wraps up another insightful episode of e-commerce episode from Digital E-commerce Podcast. I want to extend a huge thank you to Matt from Slaymaker Marketing. And if you just remember, the e-commerce is ever evolving, and always stay informed and take action. And like Matt saying, keep learning. Each of the platform, they always come with different kind of rule set or like a subject matter or like update. So this is where you can learn all the things if you need to. Yeah, so thank you for tuning in, and that wraps up for this episode.
Awesome. Thanks for having me.